Right, hi guys. This was to be the fourth video in my little series before the accident, if you call it that, I suffered. This is the video clips that I'd made. Um, Clearly now what I'm going to do is to narrate them as we go along. First of all, there was the grain filler. Uh, I looked at the grain filler and thought, do we need to do grain filler? The wood I'm using, alder, was a close-knit wood. Some people say don't do grain filler, there's no need. Others say, well, there's no harm. Well, I took the view of there's no harm, and I am wanting to learn what it was all about. Before that, though, there was a considerable effort we put into the binding, this pretty binding which I'd done. The binding underneath was came with the with the wood, but the binding on top required a fair amount of work. There were some areas where the binding was too low, somewhere it was too high, but eventually, as you can see, um, with a fair amount of work, interesting work actually. I don't see why people don't like sanding. Um, we I managed to work it all down and get to the grain filler point of view. Okay, once I got the binding to a sufficient state, it was then important to clean the wood. I couldn't find any naphtha, but I did finish up using methylated spirits, hoping that that would do the job.
Well, here are the results of my first attempt to apply the grain filler. First impressions are that possibly I mixed it with too much white spirit. It is very thick, gungy stuff in the tin, so maybe too much white spirit. Certainly got sanding. It seems pretty smooth. I applied it with a small paintbrush, which accounts for the marks. And it is, as you see, as you would imagine paint itself to actually apply. So I'm going to sand this down, and then I've got to gauge whether the grain filler has done its job or whether I need to apply a second thicker coat. Incidentally, the old packing case is on the floor because I don't necessarily trust this Heath Robinson I've done to actually hold the guitar up. So if it does fall off during the night, at least it'll hit something solid. And additionally, I have had to shave off my beard because of this little chap. Quite disappointed to discover that you can't have a beard. Even moustaches are a bit iffy. So I'm not sure whether I've taken off too much on this half. This is the half I haven't touched yet. Very, very... feels grainy, but I don't think it is the grain. I'm pretty sure it's not the grain. It's the effect of actually using that brush. Okay, I've decided not to put on another coat of the grain filler. If I put one on, it won't do any harm, but I won't know if it was one too many for future. So let's not do it, see what happens, and then realise I should have done it. That way I learn more. That's going to be my excuse. Okay, so we're going to press on with 3 coats of the primer. Okay, so after 3 coats of primer and leaving it for basically 48 hours, I'm pretty impressed. There were 1 or 2 small runs which we got from the classic holding the paint spray too long in one place, but other than that, I'm now going to sand it down with 600 grit and apply another 3 coats. Now you can see that's a very light sanding with 600, and you can see how even with that the binding is starting to show through, which illustrates just how light these 3 coats of paint actually are, which is a good thing. So let's apply some more paint.
Well, things started to go wrong after 6 coats of the white undercoat, of similar number, 7 coats of the matte black. What did we see? Well, these here you can see glue, super glue, C8 glue, super glue. The idea being where I had small patches that I could apply super glue, and that super glue would fade into the distance. Unfortunately, it didn't. And what we finished up with was considerable work over and over and over again in order to get the superglued areas flat enough that they didn't show up on the black.